Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mini Books Podcast with your host Gloria and Rogan, and today we are excited to dive into Special Book with You. We picked this one because it has really important lessons to share and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started.
Ever feel like almost like something holding you back, like you're about to start that big project, you know, the book, the business, whatever it is, and then bam, something stops you.
You're definitely not alone in feeling that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and today we're really diving into a book that hits that feeling right on the head, Do the Work by Steven Pressfield.
Love this book.
What I like about Pressfield is he just lays it all out there, you know? No sugarcoating.
Yeah.
He calls this force that's holding us back, he calls it resistance. And he's so clear that like every single one of us deals with this.
Absolutely. And he doesn't just leave it at that.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't just say, oh yeah, resistance is this thing out there. He actually names really specific things, everyday things as enemies of creative work.
Right.
I was floored. Like he names things like rational thought as an enemy. Even friends and family could be entities to the work sometimes.
Yeah.
Makes you rethink some stuff, right?
It really does. And this is where I think his idea of trusting the soup comes into play.
I love this.
Okay, so I know that sounds a little weird, trusting the soup, but stick with me.
Okay.
Think about how you make soup. You don't overthink every single little ingredient, right? You trust the process. You trust that those flavors are all going to come together. You trust your gut and your experience as a soup maker.
Okay.
It's the same with anything creative, really.
So it's like that initial spark, that gut feeling about a project Pressfield saying, trust that.
Yes, exactly. Don't overthink it.
Have you experienced this? Where you have that great idea, but then you start doing all the research and the planning and you end up talking yourself out of it.
All the time.
Right.
All the time. And you know, that's another key part of Pressfield's approach, is he really stresses that you have to start before you feel ready.
Yeah.
He even says limit that early research because, I don't know about you, but I can get so caught up in research and it's really just a way to avoid doing the actual work.
Oh my gosh, that is me. Procrastination station.
Yeah.
Research is fun. It feels productive.
It feels like you're doing something.
Exactly. But Pressfield has this great simple tool, and maybe you can explain this better than I can, but he calls it the one sheet of foolscap method.
Yes.
Have you heard of this?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of my favorite takeaways from the book. It is so simple, but it's powerful. Basically, you take one piece of paper, and he's pretty serious about it just being one sheet.
Wow.
And you outline your whole project, but you do it using that classic 3-act structure. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
See, that's what I love about this. He's not just talking about writing a novel. He uses examples from Da Vinci's Last Supper to Bob Dylan's Positively 4th Street, even Facebook, which is crazy.
It's brilliant.
It shows that this 3-act structure, it applies to anything and everything.
It does. It's about finding those core elements, that narrative arc.
And it forces you to be concise, too. You only have so much space on that one page.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. You're not allowing yourself to get lost in the weeds. You're creating that initial framework. You're getting those big ideas down. And that's what's important. As Pressfield says, action creates more action.
I love that.
So just the act of putting pen to paper, even if it's messy, even if it feels incomplete, it can be enough to kind of break through that initial wall of resistance.
Okay, so I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah.
Right. Embrace the mess, quiet those inner critics. We've got to quiet those voices and just start creating. I mean, it can't stay easy forever, though, right?
Unfortunately not.
Right. So we're feeling good, right?
Yeah.
We're in the groove. The project's moving along. Maybe we're feeling a little unstoppable even. And then, bam, we hit it.
The wall.
The wall. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, I've hit that wall so many times.
Right. It's that point in the creative process where the doubt creeps in, you hit those roadblocks, and you're second-guessing everything.
Every decision you've made up to that point is suddenly questionable.
It is just the worst. You're feeling so inspired one minute, and then the next, it's just like you're drowning in self-doubt.
Drowning's a good word for it.
Pressfield says, this is it. This is where resistance is strongest.
It's like it's been waiting, you know, waiting for us to get a little comfortable, let our guard down, then bam.
And it does not play fair.
No, not at all. It goes for the weak spots, right? Like when we're in the thick of it, fully invested, that's when it strikes.
The more we care, the more resistance wants to take us down.
It seems that way because Like Pressfield says, the higher the stakes, the stronger the resistance. And this is actually where, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but this is where those big setbacks, those crashes, they can actually be a good thing.
I'm going to need you to explain that a little bit because on the surface, a crash does not sound like a good thing ever.
I know. Hear me out. Think of it like this. Imagine you're building, like, I don't know, a house.
Okay, yeah.
And you're so focused on getting those walls up, you got the roof on, you're moving, you're making progress, but you don't realize the foundation is totally messed up.
Oh, no.
So the crash in that case would be, the foundation crumbles, right? It's a huge setback for sure, but it's also a chance to rebuild that foundation to make it stronger than before.
So you're saying these crashes, they can actually expose those hidden flaws, the things we never would have noticed otherwise until it was too late.
Yes. Exactly. Like in our creative projects, maybe it's a flawed premise, maybe it's a weakness in our process, but the crash forces us to address it. It forces us to step back, rethink our approach, and ultimately grow from it.
Painful but necessary.
Exactly. A little bit of both. It's often in those moments when we're feeling the most broken down that we have our biggest breakthroughs.
It's like that story Pressfield tells about the Navy SEAL training.
Oh, with the bell.
Yeah. They have this bell. And the candidates, if they want to quit, all they have to do is ring that bell.
Just ring the bell and you're out.
And Pressfield compares that to those moments in our creative process where, we're hitting that wall and we're so tempted to just give up.
And it's hard not to ring that bell sometimes, trust me, I know.
But we don't. We dig deep, we fight through it. And on the other side, what is it that kicks in? It's like those weird allies Pressfield talks about.
Stubbornness, for sure. A little bit of delusion.
Delusion, yeah. You got to believe in what you're doing, even when it feels like it's falling apart.
Yeah, you almost have to be a little bit crazy to ignore that voice telling you to quit. Sorry to interrupt you guys. If you're enjoying this podcast, then don't forget to check out our official YouTube channel, Mini Books Podcast, and subscribe for more great podcasts like this one.
Okay, so we've slayed the dragon, we've navigated the big crash, we're bruised and battered, but we're still here. What's next? Because it still feels like there's a long way to go.
It's funny you should say that because now we come to what might be the most terrifying stage in the entire creative process, actually finishing the thing.
Oh boy. Here we go.
It's wild, right? You think, okay, I pushed through, I got my second win, the hardest part is over. But then you get to the finish line and it's like, whoa, hold on a second.
It's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
I mean, you've given this thing everything, fought off all those doubts, and now you actually have to share it with people. That's terrifying.
Exactly. And Pressfield doesn't let us off the hook. He calls this shipping. Basically, that moment when you say, okay, enough. This is it. I'm putting it out there.
No more hiding.
No more hiding. No more almost ready. No more tweaking it for the millionth time. It's done.
That takes guts. It's like I think mountain climbers talk about exposure. Like you're clinging to a cliff, one wrong move, and that's it.
That's a good way to put it, that feeling of vulnerability. Because when you hit publish, when you send that email, whatever it is, you're putting yourself out there. And you know what? Not everyone's going to like it. And that is scary.
You're also kind of confronting the fear of success too, right? Like what if it actually works?
That's a really good point. That's a whole other level of fear, isn't it? And the crazy thing is, this even happens to the greats. Pressfield talks about Michael Crichton.
Jurassic Park.
Exactly. Mega successful author. And even he struggled to finish things. Pressfield says Crichton used to check into hotels, completely isolate himself, just to get to the end of a book.
Wow, so it's not just me then.
Not just you, it's everyone who's ever tried to create something. We all feel that.
So what's the secret then? How do we get over that hump, that fear?
Pressfield would say it's about tapping into that killer instinct. You've got to be ruthless, be able to say good enough, and then get it out there.
Even if it's not perfect.
Especially if it's not perfect. And he reminds us, even failures, those projects that maybe didn't turn out how we hoped, they can actually be a good sign.
How so?
Well, he talks about this movie he worked on, King Kong Lives. Not exactly a cinematic masterpiece.
Okay, I've heard of it.
But the point is, he finished it. He shipped it, as he'd say. And that's a victory in itself. It's about showing up, putting in the work, even when it's hard, even when you're afraid. And I think that's one of the most important things we can take away from all of this.
So we need to stop aiming for perfection and just get it done.
Easier said than done, I know. But that's really what it comes down to. It's about being brave enough to try to risk failing, because that's the only way we ever get to succeed.
So it's not just about finishing that one project, is it? It's about building that habit.
Absolutely. Overcoming resistance once. It's like you learn this trick, you have this tool in your belt, and then you can apply that to any area of your life.
I love that. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway, the thing you hope people really hold on to from Do the Work?
Honestly, it's that idea that we are all capable of so much more than we think. We get in our own way. We let fear hold us back. But once you've tasted what it feels like to push through that, to finish something, to ship it, that's when you realize you can do anything.
And maybe that's the real Heaven Press Field's talking about. Not some far-off idea, but the act of creating, of pushing ourselves to be our best selves right here, right now.
Exactly.
This was great. I always get so much out of talking about this stuff. It's so easy to get stuck in our heads, But we've got to remember to trust that gut, take that leap, and ship it. Thanks for diving deep with us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights and key learnings, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Mini Books Podcast, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Remember, this is Mini Books Podcast.